Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Sachin Education Hub in English. Friends, today we will discuss on the topic what is the difference between IFRS and US GAAP. I already explained the topic IFRS and Indian Accounting Standard, the difference between these two terms. That is also the important question for the exam in the last video, in the previous video. Now we will talk on the topic IFRS and US GAAP. So firstly, the difference between these two terms on the basis of scope. IFRS, that means International Financial Reporting Standards, and US GAAP. Firstly, IFRS is used in more than 120 countries. As you already know, International Financial Reporting Standards are the accounting standards that are established or adapted by more than 120 countries in whole world. But if we talk about US GAAP, the word US is considered to the United States of America. So in simple word, these are the accounting standards that are only applicable or that are only used in the US. Not only means it is only adaptable by the US, it is also adaptable by most of the companies in many other states as well. So you can say that mainly used in US, but if we talk about international financial reporting, then it is applicable not only in one country but for the whole world. Okay, so this is the difference between these two terms on the basis of scope. Now coming to the second one, approach. On the basis of approach, if we talk about the what is the IFRS approach? International Financial Reporting Standards are the accounting standards that provide the approach on the basis of principles. You can say that this is a principle based approach that followed by the International Financial Reporting Standards. It means the guidance should be provided by these standards or the guidance in the form of principle that you have to be follow, that every company have to be follow. Okay, but if we talk about the US GAAP, then it is a rule base, which means company it provide the companies the guidance on the basis of what to do, what not to do. Actually the rules means what to do, what not to do. So similarly, US gaps are also help you to understand the things for understand the helps the companies to understand the main information, what to disclose, what not to disclose in their financial reporting. So this is the approach based difference between these two terms. Coming to the third difference is on the basis of inventory. As we talk about the IFRS, that means International Financial Reporting Standards, then these are the accounting standards that use mainly first in first out method, that means FIFO, or weighted average cost method to record the inventory in their books. In simple word, it means you can say that there are only two methods that are mainly followed by International Financial Reporting Standards to report their inventories in the books or to account their inventory in their books by the company. Otherwise, if we talk about the US GAAP, that means United States GAAP, then it allow the company to use whether FIFO, whether LIFO, or whether weighted average cost for the purpose of inventory accounting. So there is a difference between the methods of recording of inventory in these two terms as well, or you can say that there is a difference between these two accounting standards to report their inventories in the books on the basis of methods. Okay. So now coming to the next difference, that is on the basis of research and development. Okay. Under IFRS, there are two types of cost, that means research and development cost. In IFRS, research cost can be treated as an expense incurred by the company or recorded as an expense in their books. But if we talk about the development cost, then it can be capitalized if the criteria is met. In simple word, whatever the criteria is given under the IFRS, if the criteria is met according to the capitalization, then the company can treat the development cost to be capitalized for the purpose of future. Okay, but under US GAAP, firstly company have to be record these costs record research cost or record their development cost as an expense in their books, but until the criteria is met by the company regarding the capitalization, after the criteria will be met, then the company will not treated this cost as an expense but will be capitalize these expenses for the purpose of future. In simple word, until the capitalization criteria according to US GAAP is met by the company, till that time company have to be record these two costs as an expense, otherwise they can be capitalized according to the criteria purpose for the purpose of future. This is the difference between these two terms on the basis of research and development cost. Next difference is on the basis of leases. In simple word, very simple word, international financial reporting standards require that companies should disclose every type or all type of leases. That means all type of operating leases, all type of financial leases. But there is a difference between US GAAP, because according to the United States GAAP, company only recognizes the financial leases in their books. They can't be recorded any operating leases or can't recognize any operating leases in their balance sheet. This is the difference between these two terms on the basis of leases. Coming to the sixth one, that is impairment of asset. Impairment of asset in simple word means the market value of the asset will be less than the value that are recorded by the company in their balance sheet, right? So there should be a testing of impairment of tests so that assets value will be checked timely. So in simple word, according to the IFRS, the company have to be test their impairment of asset annually, year by year. But according to the US GAAP or US GAAP accounting standards, company need not to be do it annually, but whenever the indication arises, whenever the indication of impairment of asset arises, they have to do, or the company have to test their asset for the purpose of impairment. So now another difference on the basis of revenue recognition. Under IFRS, revenue will be recognized when the seller transfer their risk and reward ownership to the buyer. Simple words. But if we talk about the US GAAP, then you can say that there is another or specific criteria for the revenue recognition on the basis of transaction and industry. There are different types of industry and transactions. So firstly, business have to be considered, or company have to be check what type of business is it, what type of industry is it, so that what type of transaction is it, so that revenue recognition can be fulfilled. In simple word, there is a specific criteria on the basis of types of business. So firstly, you have to check the type of business, and on that basis you have to recognize their revenue. Okay. Another difference is on the basis of goodwill. So if we talk about the goodwill, then goodwill is also the intangible asset. So there should be a testing of impairment in this case as well. So if we talk about the international financial reporting standards, then goodwill should be tested annually for the purpose of impairment or the testing of impairment. Otherwise, in case of US GAAP, you don't have to go annually, you don't have to test again and again. You just have to follow the two steps and do the impairment test of the goodwill. Otherwise, you don't have to follow again and again these steps for the purpose of impairment of or the testing of impairment of this goodwill or the intangible asset. So now coming to the last point of the difference between these two terms, that is on the basis of format of financial statement. According to the international financial reporting, you have to just disclose the changes in the shareholder equity. What is the change in the shareholder equity? You just have to disclose according to international financial reporting standards. But if we talk about US GAAP, then company have to provide not changes of the shareholder equity, but you have to provide full statement of the shareholder equity in the financial reporting. So in simple word, you have to say that statement is fully required only in case of US GAAP, not in case of IFRS. IFRS is only required the changes in the equity shareholding. Otherwise, changes are not accepting in US GAAP. Full statement should be provided in case of US GAAP. There is a difference between the format of financial statement according to these two standards. in this case. Okay, so this is all about the difference between IFRS and US GAAP. I hope students you like this video very much and you understand the concept of IFRS and US GAAP with the differences. So this is all about today.